Captain Ben Torres stood on the bridge of the human diplomatic vessel Unity, watching the massive alien fleet drift silently through space ahead of them. The ships were beautiful in a way that made his breath catch. They looked like giant crystals floating in the darkness, their surfaces reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed almost alive. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission," said Communications Officer Lisa Park from her station. "Same as before. Very formal. They want to send someone aboard for first contact protocols." Ben nodded and smoothed down his uniform jacket. 3 weeks ago, humanity had received its first message from an alien civilization. The Zephyrian Empire, they called themselves. The message had been polite but distant, written in perfect mathematical language that their computers had slowly translated. The aliens wanted to meet. They wanted to talk. But everything about their communications suggested they were a very formal people who took ceremony and protocol seriously. "Any word from Earth Command about how to handle this?" Ben asked. "Same instructions as before, sir," replied his first officer, Commander Sarah Chen. "Be respectful, be careful, and try not to start any wars." Ben smiled despite his nerves. "Well, that's helpful." The Unity was not a military ship. It carried scientists, diplomats, and cultural experts. Ben himself had been chosen for this mission not because he was the best military commander, but because he was good with people. He had a gift for making others feel comfortable, even in tense situations. "Sir, they're requesting permission to dock," Lisa reported. "Granted," Ben said. "And Lisa, patch me through to the whole ship. Everyone should know what's happening." He picked up the ship-wide communicator. "Attention all hands. This is your captain speaking. In about 10 minutes, we're going to make history. We're about to meet our first alien visitors. I know everyone is nervous. I'm nervous too. But remember, we represent all of humanity today. Let's show them what humans are really like." Ben walked to the main docking bay, followed by his senior staff and the diplomatic team. Dr. Robert Kim, the mission's lead xenobiologist, was practically vibrating with excitement. Ambassador Helen White looked calm but alert, her hands clasped behind her back. "What do we know about their physical appearance?" Ben asked as they walked. "Very little," Dr. Kim replied. "Their ships suggest they're tall. The mathematical concepts in their messages indicate advanced intelligence. But we have no visual data at all." They reached the docking bay just as the airlocks finished cycling. Warning lights flashed, and then the inner door slid open. The first alien to step through was unlike anything Ben had ever imagined. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that looked like it was made of living crystal. Light seemed to move through her body in slow waves, creating patterns of color that shifted and changed as she moved. Her face was humanoid but elongated, with large eyes that sparkled like gems. She wore what appeared to be formal robes made of the same crystalline material as her skin. Behind her came 4 other aliens, clearly guards or attendants, all slightly shorter but with the same crystal-like appearance. The tall alien stepped forward and raised one hand in what was obviously a formal greeting gesture. When she spoke, her voice was like music, with tones and harmonics that seemed impossible for any throat to produce. "I am Princess Vera of the Royal House of Zephyr Prime, first daughter of the Crystal Throne, speaker for the Outer Worlds, keeper of the sacred protocols," she said in carefully pronounced English. "I come in peace to establish formal diplomatic relations between the Zephyrian Empire and the species known as humanity." The translation was perfect, but it sounded rehearsed, like she had practiced these exact words many times. Ambassador White stepped forward to give the formal response that Earth Command had prepared, but Ben found himself moving first. Something about the alien princess's posture, the way she held herself so carefully, reminded him of nervous students he had taught at the academy years ago. People trying very hard to get everything exactly right. "Hey sweetie, welcome aboard," Ben said with his biggest, warmest smile. "I'm Ben Torres, captain of this ship. Thanks for coming to visit us." The effect was immediate and dramatic. Princess Vera's crystalline skin flashed through several colors very quickly, finally settling on a deep purple that seemed to glow from within. Her large eyes went wide, and she stood perfectly still for several long seconds. Her guards looked shocked. One of them started to step forward, but she held up a hand to stop him. Then something wonderful happened. The princess began to laugh. It was not the musical, formal sound Ben might have expected. It was genuine, delighted laughter that seemed to surprise her as much as everyone else. The purple glow in her skin brightened, and her eyes literally sparkled. "Yes, dear," she replied, and then immediately looked surprised that she had said it. She laughed again, covering her mouth with one crystalline hand. "Oh my! I am so sorry. That was not proper protocol at all." "Don't worry about protocol," Ben said easily. "We're all friends here. Would you like a tour of the ship? I bet you're curious about how humans live." Princess Vera looked around at the human delegation. Ambassador White was staring at Ben with an expression of pure panic. Dr. Kim looked fascinated. The other crew members were smiling, following their captain's lead. "A tour would be most welcome, Captain Torres," Princess Vera said. "Though I must admit, your greeting customs are quite different from what I expected." "Yeah, we're pretty informal," Ben said, leading the way out of the docking bay. "Life's too short to spend it being stuffy all the time." As they walked through the corridors of the Unity, Ben pointed out different sections of the ship. The princess seemed especially interested in the common areas where crew members gathered to eat, play games, and socialize. "Your people spend recreational time together?" she asked, watching two engineers play chess in the main lounge. "Of course," Ben said. "Why wouldn't they? On Zephyrian ships, there are strict hierarchies. Officers of different ranks do not socialize together. It would be considered improper." Ben watched her face as she spoke. The colors in her skin shifted to what he was beginning to recognize as a darker, sadder shade. "That sounds lonely," he said simply. Princess Vera stopped walking. She turned to look at him, her crystalline features reflecting the ship's lights in complex patterns. "Lonely," she repeated, as if testing the word. "Yes. I suppose it is." They continued the tour, visiting the ship's gardens, the gymnasium, the library. Everywhere they went, crew members greeted their captain with easy familiarity. They nodded respectfully to the alien princess, but without the rigid formality her own people showed her. In the ship's main cafeteria, Ben got 2 cups of coffee and offered one to Princess Vera. "This is a human drink called coffee," he explained. "It's hot, so be careful. We drink it when we want to wake up or when we're having friendly conversations." Princess Vera accepted the cup carefully. Her crystalline fingers seemed to adapt to the heat without difficulty. She took a small sip and her eyes widened. "It's bitter," she said. "But also comforting somehow." "That's coffee for you," Ben said with a grin. "So tell me about your home world. What's it like growing up as a princess?" For a moment, Princess Vera looked like she didn't know how to answer. Her skin flickered through several color changes. "Growing up as a princess," she said slowly, "means learning the proper way to speak to every level of society. It means understanding the correct ceremonies for every occasion. It means never saying the wrong thing or acting in a way that might bring dishonor to the royal family." "That sounds exhausting," Ben said. "It is," Princess Vera admitted, and then looked surprised again at her own honesty. "I have never said that before. Not to anyone." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, drinking their coffee. Around them, the normal life of the ship continued. People came and went, talking and laughing. A group of scientists at one table were having an animated discussion about stellar navigation. 2 maintenance workers were sharing pictures of their families back on Earth. "Your people seem very content," Princess Vera observed. "We try to be," Ben said. "Life in space is hard enough without making it harder on ourselves." We take care of each other out here. Take care of each other, Princess Vera repeated. Even though you are different ranks. Especially because we're different ranks, Ben said. A captain is only as good as his crew, and a crew works best when they trust their officers. We're all in this together. Princess Vera was quiet for a long time, watching the interactions around them. Her skin had settled into a warm golden color that seemed peaceful. On Zephyr Prime, she said finally, I have hundreds of servants and advisors, but no friends. I have never shared a drink with someone and talked about normal things. I have never had someone greet me with such warmth and familiarity. Well, you have friends now, Ben said simply. If you want them. The princess turned to look at him, her crystalline features bright with that warm golden glow. I would like that very much, she said. Though I must warn you, I am not certain I know how to be a friend. I have only ever been a princess. Being a friend is easy, Ben said. You just be yourself and care about other people. You're already doing fine. They finished their coffee and continued the tour. By the time they returned to the docking bay, Princess Vera had met dozens of crew members. She had seen how humans work together, how they solved problems through cooperation instead of rigid hierarchy. She had listened to their stories and shared a few careful ones of her own. This has been the most interesting day of my life, she told Ben as they stood by the airlock. I must return to my ship to report to my father, the Emperor. But I hope we can continue these conversations. Anytime, sweetie, Ben said, and grinned when she blushed purple again. You're always welcome here. Princess Vera paused at the threshold of the airlock. She turned back to Ben and his crew. Thank you for showing me that there are different ways to live, she said formally. Then, with a small smile, she added, see you later, dear. After she left, Ambassador White approached Ben with a concerned expression. Captain, I'm not sure that approach was entirely appropriate for first contact protocols, she said. Ben watched the alien ship through the viewports as it moved away, its crystal surfaces catching the light of nearby stars. Maybe not, he said. But I think we just made humanity's first alien friend. 3 days had passed since Princess Vera returned to her ship, and Captain Ben Torres was starting to worry. The formal diplomatic channels had gone completely silent. No messages, no communications, nothing at all from the Zephyrian fleet. Maybe we messed up, said Commander Sarah Chen, joining Ben in his ready room. Maybe calling a princess sweetie really was too much. Ben stared out the viewport at the crystal ships floating in the distance. They had not moved since Princess Vera left, but they had not tried to communicate either. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, Lieutenant Lisa Park announced over the intercom. It's from Princess Vera herself, requesting permission to come aboard again. Ben felt relief wash over him. Granted immediately. This time, when Princess Vera arrived in the docking bay, she came alone. No guards, no formal entourage. She wore simpler robes, and her crystalline skin glowed with that same warm golden color Ben remembered from their coffee conversation. Hey there, Ben said, greeting her with the same warmth as before. Good to see you again. Hello, Ben, Princess Vera replied, and her skin flickered with happy blues and golds. I hope you do not mind that I came by myself. I wanted to talk with you privately. Of course not. Want to grab some coffee? They settled into the same quiet corner of the cafeteria they had used before. Princess Vera seemed more relaxed this time, holding her coffee cup naturally and watching the crew around them with genuine interest rather than formal observation. I must tell you something important, Princess Vera said. The past 3 days have been quite difficult for me. Ben felt his stomach tighten. Did we do something wrong? I know our greeting style was pretty casual for first contact. No, you did nothing wrong, Princess Vera said quickly. That is precisely the problem. When I returned to my ship and reported on our meeting, I told my advisors and my father's representatives about human customs. I described your informal social structure, the way your crew interacts across ranks, the kindness you showed me." She paused to take a sip of coffee, her crystalline features thoughtful. "They were very concerned. They said that such casual behavior was dangerous. That it could undermine proper authority structures. They insisted that future meetings must follow traditional diplomatic protocols." "And what do you think?" Ben asked. Princess Vera's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a determined silver blue. "I think they are wrong," she said firmly. "For the first time in my life, I experienced genuine friendship. I felt like someone saw me as a person rather than just a title. And I realized how much I have been missing." She leaned forward, her gem-like eyes bright with intensity. "Ben, I need to ask you something. In human culture, is it normal for people of different social ranks to be friends?" "Absolutely," Ben said. "Some of my best friends are people I used to serve under, or people who served under me. Rank is just about job responsibilities. It doesn't determine who you can care about." "That is what I hoped you would say," Princess Vera said. "Because I have made a decision that my advisors will not like." Before Ben could ask what she meant, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain Torres to the bridge immediately. We have multiple incoming vessels." Ben and Princess Vera hurried to the bridge, where they found the crew staring at the main viewscreen in amazement. Dozens of new ships were emerging from hyperspace around them. They were clearly Zephyrian vessels, but these were different from Princess Vera's crystal fleet. These ships looked older, more worn, and they were arriving from many different directions. "What's happening?" Ben asked. Princess Vera's skin was glowing bright gold now, almost blindingly beautiful. "I may have sent some messages to other parts of the Empire," she said with a smile that was becoming more human-like with practice. "I told them about humanity. About your friendship customs and social equality. About how different things could be." Lieutenant Lisa looked up from her communications station. "Captain, we're receiving hundreds of transmission requests. Ships are asking for permission to send delegates aboard. They want to meet humans." "Who are they?" Ben asked. "Common citizens," Princess Vera explained. "Workers, scientists, artists, teachers. People who have never been allowed to participate in diplomatic meetings before. When word spread about how your crew treated me as an equal, they decided they wanted to experience that for themselves." Commander Chen shook her head in amazement. "Princess, did you just accidentally start a revolution?" Princess Vera's laugh was becoming more natural each time Ben heard it. "Not accidentally, Commander. Very much on purpose." Over the next several hours, the Unity became the center of the most unusual diplomatic gathering in galactic history. Small delegations from dozens of different Zephyrian worlds came aboard. Instead of formal ceremony halls, they met in the ship's common areas. Instead of rigid protocols, they had conversations over meals and drinks. Ben watched as his crew naturally adapted to their role as hosts. Chief Engineer Tom Wilson explained human technology to a group of Zephyrian mechanics. Dr. Kim discussed xenobiology with alien scientists who had never before been allowed to speak to foreign researchers. The ship's cook, Maria Santos, taught several Zephyrian food preparers how to make pizza. "This is incredible," said Dr. Kim, approaching Ben with sparkling eyes. "These people have been isolated by their own social system for generations. They have so many questions about everything. Science, art, music, philosophy. And they're all asking the same thing," added Ambassador White, who had initially been horrified by Ben's casual approach but was now fully supportive. "They want to know how human societies function without strict hierarchies." Princess Vera moved through the groups like a gracious host, her skin glowing with constant warm colors. Ben noticed that she was different with her own people than she had been during their first formal meeting. She laughed more, touched people's shoulders in friendly gestures, asked personal questions about their lives and families. "You're good at this," Ben told her during a quiet moment between meetings. "I am learning from an excellent teacher," she replied. Ben, I must tell you something else. My father's official representatives are not happy about these unauthorized meetings. They are demanding that I return immediately and bring all these people with me. Are you going to? Princess Vera's crystalline features set in a determined expression. Yes, but not for the reasons they expect. I am going to propose something that has never been done in Zephyrian history. She turned to address the mixed crowd of humans and aliens in the main lounge. My friends, she said, and Ben noticed that her formal speaking style had become much more natural. I have an announcement to make. Tomorrow, I will return to Zephyr Prime to address the Imperial Council. I am going to propose that Captain Torres and a delegation of humans be invited to our homeworld as official ambassadors. The Zephyrian visitors erupted in excited musical chatter. Several of them began glowing with bright, happy colors. Furthermore, Princess Vera continued, I am going to suggest that we implement cultural exchange programs between our worlds. Zephyrian citizens should have the opportunity to learn about human social customs, and humans should learn about our sciences and arts. She paused and looked directly at Ben. And I am going to recommend that future diplomatic relations between our peoples be conducted in the human style. With friendship and equality, rather than ceremony and hierarchy. The celebration that followed lasted well into the ship's night cycle. Humans and Zephyrians shared stories, played games, and made plans for future cooperation. Ben found himself in dozens of conversations, answering questions about everything from human family structures to military organization to artistic traditions. Captain, said a young Zephyrian scientist named Nico, is it really true that human children can become friends with adult humans who are not their relatives? Of course, Ben replied. Some of my best friends are people I've known since I was a kid. Age doesn't matter for friendship. Nico's skin flashed with amazed yellow-green patterns. On Zephyr Prime, young people cannot speak to their elders as equals until they reach their third maturation cycle. By then, natural friendship connections have been lost. Well, Ben said with a smile, maybe that's something that could change. As the evening wound down, Princess Vera approached Ben one more time before returning to her ship. I want to thank you for something, she said. Not just for your friendship, though that means more to me than you know. But for showing me and my people that there are different ways to live. You don't need to thank me for being friendly, Ben said. That's just how humans are. That is exactly why I must thank you, Princess Vera replied. Your people treat kindness and respect as natural things. You do not see friendship as a privilege to be earned, but as a gift to be freely given. That is something my people need to learn. She paused and looked around at the mixed group still talking and laughing together throughout the ship. For centuries, the Zephyrian Empire has maintained order through separation and hierarchy. But watching your crew today, I see that cooperation and friendship might be much stronger forces. Think your father will go for the cultural exchange idea? Ben asked. Princess Vera's skin sparkled with mischievous blue-green swirls. I think when he sees how productive and happy these informal meetings have been, he will have little choice. And if he does not? She smiled. Well, I have learned from humans that sometimes the best way to create change is simply to start doing things differently. 3 weeks later, Ben found himself standing in the crystal throne room on Zephyr Prime, the first human ever to set foot on the Zephyrian homeworld. The room was magnificent, with walls that seemed to be carved from living gemstones and a ceiling that displayed real-time images of stars from across the galaxy. Emperor Kent, Princess Vera's father, was an imposing figure even larger than his daughter, with skin that shifted through deep, regal purples and blues. But when he greeted Ben, he did so with a gesture that was clearly influenced by human customs, a warm handshake rather than a formal bow. Captain Torres, the Emperor said in carefully practiced English, my daughter tells me I should call you Ben, and that I should welcome you as a friend rather than simply as a diplomatic representative. I'd like that very much, Your Majesty, Ben replied. Please, call me Kent, the Emperor said, and Ben could see where Princess Vera had learned her capacity for surprised laughter. My daughter has convinced me that titles create unnecessary distance between people who should be working together. The formal ceremony that followed established the first human embassy on Zephyr Prime and the first Zephyrian embassy on Earth. But more importantly, it established new principles for interspecies relations based on friendship and mutual respect rather than formal protocol and hierarchy. As Ben watched Princess Vera address the assembled Zephyrian nobles, encouraging them to embrace new ideas about social interaction, he reflected on how much had changed since that first moment in the docking bay. "You know," Princess Vera said to him after the ceremony, "I have been thinking about something. When we first met, you called me sweetie, and I said, yes dear, without even thinking about it. At the time, I was embarrassed by how informal it was. And now?" Ben asked. "Now I realize that in that one moment, we created the first real friendship between our species," she said. "We proved that understanding does not require ceremony or protocol. It only requires two people willing to treat each other with kindness." She looked around at the mixed crowd of humans and Zephyrians, all talking together easily and naturally. "That casual greeting changed everything, Ben. It showed both our peoples that friendship is stronger than formality, that cooperation works better than hierarchy, and that the best diplomacy of all might simply be treating others the way you would want to be treated." Ben smiled as he watched a group of human children teaching young Zephyrians how to play tag in the palace gardens, their laughter creating music that echoed off the crystal walls. "Hey sweetie," he said to Princess Vera with a grin. "Yes dear," she replied, her skin glowing with the warmest golden light he had ever seen. "What do you think our people will discover about each other next?" As the two fleets prepared for the journey back to human space, carrying the first group of Zephyrian cultural ambassadors in their history, Ben realized that sometimes the most important diplomatic achievements came not from grand gestures or formal treaties, but from simple human kindness extended to strangers who became friends. The galaxy would never be the same, and it all started with a casual greeting and a shared laugh.